Welcome back, students. Welcome to this next session on industrial metallurgy. These are the contents that would be covered in this session. Very interesting topic: the meaning of microstructure and its relation with the mechanical properties of a metal or an alloy system. So, one thing we must understand that if under some conditions of composition, temperature, pressure, whatsoever, if a metal or an alloy system is showing you some mechanical properties, it is showing those properties because it has got some specific peculiar microstructure present in it under those conditions. So, as I said, whenever a metal or an alloy system is giving you some specific mechanical properties, that is because that metals or an alloy system under those given conditions has got some specific microstructure present in it. That importantly also means that if you wish to change the mechanical properties of a material system, if you were not happy with the type of mechanical properties a material system is showing to you, what do you generally change, or what do you need to do? You need to change its microstructure. So we need to know two things. Number one, we need to know that which specific type of microstructure would give us what specific type of mechanical properties. And the second, we need to know that how do we get that? What processing is required through which a particular microstructure which would give me some peculiar mechanical properties can be obtained. Now, if we know the answers to the above 2 points that we have written for you, 1 and 2, we can learn to have total control over the mechanical properties of a metal or an alloy system. And that's exactly what industrial metallurgy does for you. Industrial metallurgy tells you that what specific microstructures give you what mechanical properties, and also answers why. And then in industrial metallurgy, we also learn that what type of processing, whether alloying or whether mechanical treatment or whether heat treatment, would get you a particular microstructure and hence desirable mechanical properties in your alloy system. So that is where industrial metallurgy comes to our rescue. Now, we need to see that what is meant by this term called microstructure. Microstructure is the micro scale structure of a metal alloy, generally revealed for its prepared surface through optical microscope, scanning electron microscope, transmission electron microscope, which you popularly call SEM or TEM. So what does that mean? That if you prepare the surface, and you have already done in the material science course that how do you prepare, you do grinding, then you do polishing, then you apply an etchant. So this is called preparing the surface of a metal or an alloy system to reveal its microstructure. So when the surface has been prepared, and when you look through that surface under a microscope, then you need the micro scale structure that you see for the material, which is everywhere, right? That is called the microstructure of a material. So let's go ahead. Microstructure, students, is made up of two main components. One is the grain size. The other is that what phases are present in that grain size. And I'll also try to show you with the help of diagrams what exactly is meant by this. So whenever you look into the microstructure of a material, when you look into the microstructure, there are grains which are present. And these grains have got some average diameter or some distance between the grain boundaries. More are the number of grains per unit space, or lesser is the distance between the grain boundaries, more fine is the grain size. So one aspect is grain size. Now, after you have seen the grain size, you have to see what is present within the grains. Means what is present within the grains means what type of phases are present in the within the grains. Not only what type of phases, what number of phases are present, what type of phases are present, how much space, how much area, how much volume each of that phases is occupying in the microstructure of the material, what is the shape, size, distribution of each phase, which is also called the morphology of each phase. That is what makes up the microstructure of a material. So the heading constituents of the microstructure. So there are two main constituents. You have to see what is the grain size, and you can also quantify it. And the other is what are the phase details. Okay. Now in this schematic microstructure that I have shown for a typical material in figure 7.1, you can see that this whole area is the microstructure, and this is everywhere there in the material. And you can see that there is a white background phase, and there is this second region. What did we define for a phase? That entire region in which the chemical composition, the physical state, the crystal structure, the lattice dimensions, and hence the mechanical properties are the same, that constitutes a phase. So when you have investigated this entire white region, you see none of the things that we have spelled out change. So this entire white region is a homogeneous region, is representing a particular phase. Here I have called it as the white phase, or generally in steels this is the ferrite phase. And we can now see another region which is red in color. So no sooner you see it red in color, there is a doubt that this might be a different region. And when you look into this region, red region, you might be seeing that either of the chemical composition or the physical state or the crystal structure or the lattice dimensions, one of these or more of these things is different from the phase that is being shown in white. And you see that this red region, all these red regions amongst themselves are same in all the parameters that we have said here, chemical composition, etc. But they are different from the white region in one or more of the things. So they are the second phase being seen, and generally in steels the second phase is cementite. And here also another aspect you can see, that these are the grain boundaries where the grains actually join after they have grown during the solidification process. We'll discuss more about it in the lectures to come. So in the last slide, I had shown that one is grain size details, the other is phase details. So if I have to talk in these two terms, what I can say, the grain size is very coarse. It's not very fine. Had it been fine, too many number of grains would have been seen. But here you can only see 4 coarse grains present in the microstructure. Then what are the types of phases present? Type of phases are 2, ferrite and cementite. What is their volume fraction? I think ferrite is about 96-97%. Cementite is only about 3-4%. What is the shape? Background phase we do not spell out its phase because this has formed the background. And what about this phase, the second phase? This is in the form of plates, very thin plates. Right, so this is the way how the microstructure is defined. Now these are again some schematics where different microstructures have been shown in the first phase. In the first microstructure, you can see there is only one phase present in the system, this one phase. So you have grains of the same phase, and you have grain boundary. Here again only one phase is present, and the name of the phase is ferrite. Here 2 phases are present. Primary phase is ferrite, gray. The secondary phase, means which is present in less volume fraction, is cementite, shown in green. Morphology of secondary phase, that is cementite, is globular or spheroidal or ball type. Here again another type of microstructure has been shown. Here you can see the grain size is very fine now compared to this. You see the grain size is so fine. There are so many higher number of grains per unit space. Here there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grains. So this is a much finer grain size. But in this grain size, again 2 phases are present. One is ferrite and the other is cementite. All these regions in the black are the grain boundaries. Here another type of microstructure is being shown. The grain size is coarse, right? Ferrite and cementite both are present in a lamellar form. You have lamellas of ferrite, you have a lamella of cementite, then a lamella of ferrite, then a lamella of cementite. This is a typical structure which is found in some steels. Then you have another, you see the difference between this microstructure and the microstructure that was shown as, say, C. in this slide is that here the secondary phase was cementite, but in this diagram G, the secondary phase is austenite. So the type of phase has changed. So the microstructure has completely changed. Here, in all the earlier cases that I had shown, there were only two phases present. But in this microstructure, you can see that ferrite phase 1, cementite phase number 2, martensite named phase number 3 is present. So all these microstructure students that we have brought here for you are different from each other, either in terms of grain size or in terms of phase details or in terms of both. And now let's see the actual. This I took from one of my research papers, which was published in a journal called Material Science and Engineering A. So this is a steel which is used for making your car body. The car body sheets are made from this material, which is called a dual phase steel. Dual phase steel because it has got two phases. One of the phases is ferrite, the other is one of the phases is ferrite, the other is martensite. And this gray phase is ferrite, and this white phase that you can see is martensite, and you can clearly see the grain boundaries, right? I have another diagram which is on a much higher magnification. The first diagram was at 4000x, which was clicked through SEM, right? But the other diagram is at a much higher, this is through a machine called field emission gun scanning electron microscope. This is at 60,000x. And now you can clearly see that ferrite is the background phase and martensite is in the form of needles. Now, what is the significance of phases and how do they affect the micro? Because I said that it is a peculiar microstructure which gives you some specific mechanical properties. So the next questions which the students can ask us is, sir, how does the microstructure affect the properties? So there's a typical way how the microstructure of a material system affects the mechanical properties of that material system. It affects the mechanical properties both by the grain size as well as by the phase details. And see, normally as the grain size becomes fine, the mechanical properties will enhance. Strength will enhance, hardness will enhance. That is why you have something called nanomaterials. The grain size is of the order of less than 100 microns. So we start assuming them to be in a nano size. So generally, if the grain size decreases, the mechanical properties will enhance. And similarly, we'll also try to understand that how do the phases present in a microstructure of a material system affect the properties of that material system. But this would be taken in detail in the next lecture. But generally, we'll divide the phases into two categories. The phase which would be occupying the maximum volume fraction in the material system's microstructure would be referred to as the primary phase or the continuous phase. And the phases which would be not having the maximum volume fraction, they would be referred to as the discontinuous phase or the secondary phases. So the primary phase or the continuous phase affects the properties through its volume fraction, but how? We'll see that. And the secondary phase affects the properties of a material system through its morphology, through its shape, through its size, through its distribution, etc., etc. So I hope you found the things interesting and you have been able to understand them. Thank you so much for watching.